All right, I'm Laura Ingraham, everybody. This is the Ingraham Angle tonight from Washington. What's really behind the left's total rage over Kanye West? In moments, my angle will reveal what they're really frightened of. And the leftist mob mentality is moving from the halls of Congress and public restaurants to college campuses and even parking lots now. Ahead, we'll talk to two victims of the new mob mentality, including the friend of Susan Rice's Republican son, who was assaulted just days ago, her son, not the friend, at a pro-Kavanaugh rally. Plus, did a pair of Senate candidates just have their own basket of deplorables moments? Sean Spicer and Ari Fleischer are here to break it all down. It could spell trouble for Democrats in two key Senate races. But first, the liberal freakout as Trump reaches out. That's the focus of tonight's angle. It was an amazing moment in the Oval Office today when pop culture icon, rapper extraordinaire Kanye West met with President Trump before the cameras. He unleashed a 10-minute monologue where he tried to explain his love of all things MAGA.
You know, people expect that if you're black, you have to be Democrat. You know, they try to scare me to not wear this hat, my own friend. But this hat, it gives me power in a way. You know, my dad and my mom separated, so I didn't have a lot of male energy in my home. There was something about when I put this hat on, it made me feel like Superman. Like what I need Saturday Night Live to improve on, and what I need the liberals to improve on is, if he don't look good, we don't look good. This is our president. He has to be the freshest, the flyest.
Sometimes unlikely figures emerge in American history to play important roles, illuminating at times important truths. And today, Kanye West, in his own eccentric way, exposed the intolerance of the left. Their denunciations of his White House appearance were immediate and withering.
When it comes to issues of Kanye West bringing black people to President Trump, that's a misnomer.
It certainly doesn't speak to the diversity and sort of broad experiences of 40 million black people.
Well, this is a reality TV show we were watching. I mean,
because that was an assault on our White House.
An assault on our White House. Well, Kanye did use some coarse language that he shouldn't have used. But in other settings, liberals would have called that authentic. He was being his true self, speaking his own truth. But if you want to talk about assaults or improprieties in the White House, how about this? Or this? Kanye West is hardly a political philosopher, and I've always believed that entertainers should first entertain and keep their politics separate from their art. But I cannot remember any artist on the left who is treated with the same vitriol and hatred as Kanye West has been subjected to since he announced his support for the president. When Katy Perry or Miley Cyrus were headlining Hillary Clinton rallies, running through dorms to register voters, I don't remember anyone at MSNBC or CNN criticizing them for lacking policy experience. Or how about when Hillary Clinton sat down for an interview with that probing policy maven, Mary J. Blige?
It ain't no secret, my friend. You can get killed just for living in your American skin. Oh.
It's like an old coffee commercial from the 70s. And remember, Obama was the biggest celebrity hound of them all. I mean, his relationship was mutual with the celebrities. He was kind of a celebrity, and they loved him as vice versa. Here's Barack and Michelle serenading Usher in the White House, but no impropriety or assault on the White House then. And how about Beyonce and Jay-Z? They were in and out of the Obama White House more frequently than the Secret Service. That was all perfectly acceptable. No policy concerns then. But when it was announced 2 days back that Kanye would be holding a meeting with Trump at the White House, all hell broke loose.
So Kanye's going to let the president use him again.
He's the token Negro of the Trump administration.
Kanye West is what happens when Negroes don't read.
And black folks are about to trade Kanye West in the racial draft, okay?
Kanye is being subjected to the attacks that awake any black conservative who dares to break ranks with the Democratic monolith. Liberals kind of treat these entertainers like pawns who are not allowed to deviate from the leftist groupthink at all. God protect any Hispanic, gay, or black who breaks ranks and goes their own way politically. Remember the scorn that singer Harry Belafonte and the civil rights activist Harry Belafonte heaped on Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell for working for George Bush?
Condoleezza Rice and Colin Powell served Bush because they believe as he does. They embrace his ideology. They embrace his imperial appetite. They are lackeys and tools of that. And my reference to them as failed house slaves meant that they were not the masters of their own destiny, although they had the choice to be and didn't.
House slaves, that was really nice. More than 30 years ago, a prominent figure in the Reagan administration argued that blacks should cast off liberalism for conservative solutions and summed up how the GOP had lost so much ground, saying Democrats smugly assume blacks are monolithic and will, by force of circumstances, always huddle to the left of the political spectrum. The political right watches this herd mentality in action, concedes that blacks are monolithic, picks up a few dissidents, and wistfully shrugs at the seemingly unbreakable hold of the liberal left on black Americans. That official's name was Clarence Thomas, then chair of the Equal Opportunity Commission. Individuals such as the brilliant conservative economist Tom Sowell were courageous because, as Thomas noted, they refused to give in to the cult mentality and childish obedience that hypnotized black Americans into mindless political trance. This is Justice Thomas in 2007.
We're here not to be proselytized, but to think for ourselves. And at bottom, isn't that why one of the reasons we love a free society? That we get to think for ourselves, make our decisions based on certain principles, and to make it possible for others to do the same?
Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to say that rapper Kanye West is Tom Sowell or Clarence Thomas. Of course, he's not. But I will say that unless he's doing a giant punking of America, he has guts and gusto. Just because he dares to think for himself, think differently, in his outspoken, over-the-top manner, he's pilloried by the politically correct performers in politics, in journalism, and, of course, in the entertainment industry. He represents a danger to the left because of his huge cultural influence. And moments like this are absolutely intolerable and frightening to liberals.
Yes, you know I love you.
I know.
But
I don't want to put you in that spot. But
no, I'm standing in that spot. I love this guy right here. Let me give this guy a hug right here. I love this guy right here.
That's really
yeah.
Come here.
Yeah.
Could it be that the Trump-West show was an indication that the old Democrats' monopoly on black voters is in jeopardy? There is more reasons for the liberals to be concerned. The president's support among African Americans is nearly double that of last year. In the latest Rasmussen poll, President Trump now has a 36 approval rating among African Americans. Some attributed the rise to the support from Kanye West and, of course, a historic low unemployment rate in the black community. Whatever the cause, whatever the reason, the shifting support among African Americans is very, very significant. Democrats cannot win a national election without their huge swath of black voters. And perhaps Kanye is giving them a reason to look elsewhere for political answers. So next time you hear liberal pundits writing him off as a crazy, slave-denying lunatic, remember, it's all about the numbers. They have to smear West for fear that black Americans will follow him into the arms of President Donald Trump. And what are the Democrats going to do then? And that's the angle. Joining me now is Horace Cooper, co-chair of Project 21, former counsel to then House Majority Leader Dick Armey. Preston Mitchum is the division chair for the Washington Bar Association Young Lawyers Division, and Charlie Kirk is the founder of Turning Point USA, now author of the book Campus Battlefield. He met with Kanye for hours earlier today. Great to have you all on tonight. It was a very interesting day in Washington for a lot of reasons. And Preston, I want to start with you. You listen to the angle. Do you think that any of this overwrought reaction to Kanye West is because the left is worried that if this, let's say it's even 20% support for Trump, that's cataclysmically bad news for Democrats?
It absolutely would be bad news if it were accurate. One of the things that I certainly won't come on here and pretend as though Kanye West is anyone's saving grace. Not for the Democrats, not for the Republicans. Kanye West acted as a child today. He ranted and raved all on the Oval Office, banging his hand as a child would when they're throwing a temper tantrum. You had to almost read hieroglyphics to even understand what he was saying. And I'm actually proud of anyone who knows the Morse code enough to know what Kanye West was saying. He grandstanded the entire time, and he pontificated on nothingness. As a Democrat, I'm certainly not worried about any African Americans' approval rating for Trump. No, there will still receive a low, President Trump will still receive a low amount of African American supporters. Trust that.
I'm going to get to Charlie in a moment because you actually spent a lot of time with Kanye today. Horace, I'm wondering what the reaction would be if a white person said that he or she couldn't understand what Kanye West has said today in the Oval Office. If I said that, I can't imagine, that people would come after me. I think people ought to disagree with him. They think black people shouldn't like Trump. But he said some actually interesting things he was like all over the place, but he's not a political person. He's not, no more than Miley Cyrus bumping and grinding or doing the twerk on whatever it was, the Grammys. She doesn't look like a complete moron. But she's out there banging doors for Hillary. Oh, Hillary's the person for you. Let me give you the 5 reasons why. No one talked about Miley. But this is a real problem for liberals. Why isn't Miley Cyrus and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck and all the other people who showed up over all the years, never heard about policy considerations then?
Celebrity after celebrity has always come out and supported the left, and we all were supposed to rejoice. We were honored to have them show up and make their presentation. No one asked them, hey, wait a second, you don't have your data right. You aren't actually keeping up with what's going on. These points you're making aren't accurate. No one says any of those things. We sit back and we clap. When someone like Kanye West says what he says, what he really is doing is saying to black people, look around, think for yourself, you can, it's okay. And that's what's the most dangerous of all.
Charlie, I'm going to play something from the Oval Office that we didn't play earlier. Kanye on liberal racism, and get your reaction.
One of the moves that I love that liberals tried to do, the liberal will try to control a black person through the concept of racism because they know that we are very proud, emotional people. So when I said I like Trump to like someone that's liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism can control me?
Well, look, I had the opportunity to spend the afternoon with him after this meeting. And first of all, I think it's unbelievably insulting to say that you couldn't understand what he was saying. You know what he was saying. He was saying, you don't? You know what he's saying? I'm defecting from the monolith. Let me finish. I let you finish. Let me finish. He said, I'm defecting from the monolith, and you have permission to do the same. It took courage for him to do that because his whole life is about selling albums. His whole life is about popularity. And so many people in Hollywood and so many people in the music industry are afraid to do what he did. And you know what? You should be quite afraid because even if that Rasmussen poll is half correct, if Donald Trump's approval rating is 18, 19, 20%, the Democrat Party is done. And Kanye West, he's not even saying vote Democratic, vote Republican. He's saying think free. Think for yourself, think independent. And if you look objectively at what the Democrat Party has done to our inner cities, our urban communities, and the black community over the last 60 years, have ravished these communities, high murder rates, crime everywhere. You saw in Chicago, you did a wonderful special there. There has not been a Republican mayor of Chicago since 1931. And yet the black community votes for Democrats at a 95% clip. I applaud Kanye West for his courage, for standing up. It is not easy to do what he did today.
I gotta say, I'm not wild about celebrities and politics. I mean, I wrote a book called "Shut Up and Sing" that got, I jokingly said LeBron James shut up and dribble. It was a joke, but because I wrote a book called "Shut Up and Sing," everyone got all upset. You can't tell Kanye. Guys, everybody has an opinion. Yet the moment you prick someone else, they're screaming, "I'm a victim." No one's a victim. If you want to go out there and take shots at President Trump, call him this, that, or the other name, then don't be expecting someone isn't going to come back in your face. So this guy comes out and he says, I like Trump. And it's not, I disagree with you. This is why you should think differently about Donald Trump. Donald is not good for black. Make that argument. But to say He's psychologically inept. He's a mental case. He's dumb. And the word Negro used by two black people on set. I mean, again, I always say, if a conservative host of any color said anything like that, they'd be gone. And they'd be fired. And so why are these other? I don't like calling for people to be fired. That's not my thing. But the double standard is, to me, Preston, that's just not good.
See, a couple things, Laura. So, one, they should be gone if they were using the word Negro, right? We seem to have an issue in this country where, for some reason, many white Americans believe they can use the same exact language against black people that black people can use against black people. It's just not true, and it's never been the case. And I know that's going to be hard for many people to accept.
Including
regardless.
me. I reject that.
Oh, you can reject it all you want. It doesn't make it accurate. It doesn't make your statement accurate.
Black
it is
people,
absolutely.
Explain what you mean, because I'm confused.
Yeah, so with your statement, you said if a white person would essentially make a call for Kanye West calling him a Negro, they would be called for a firing. They should be called for a firing. They have no right to use that language. The language and the ownership and accountability lies with black people to use that particular language. I'm still talking. And on top of the fact that it seems very interesting to me that we're attempting to make Kanye some savior, some deity.
I'm not. I said that.
Okay.
I didn't say that in my monologue.
You didn't verbatim say that. This is my interpretation. It seems very accurate because in the early 2000s, conservatives were not out here proud that Kanye West said that George Bush was not for black people.
And I made that point the other night.
So we're being very hypocritical in this room if we're going to sit here and pretend as though Kanye West is now a saving grace for the Republican Party, when just 10 to 15 years ago, you all were disparaging him for making similar accusations before.
You are right that I was doing my shut up and sing moment, and which is why I said the reason I'm looking at this issue today is because I think people are desperate for solutions.
Absolutely.
All people, it doesn't matter whether you're gay, straight, black, white, people are looking for solutions to heal this country, bring this country forward. And Charlie, you spent a lot of time with him today. I don't know Kanye West. I don't know what kind of person he is. I like to judge people on who they are. Preston, we could all probably hang out, have a drink, we'd laugh and have fun. But I don't know what he's like. What is he trying to do here with Trump?
Look, first of all, he loves this country, and he sees a lot of himself in Donald Trump, someone who has defied the odds, someone who everyone said, Kanye West, you can't make your own record album, you can never succeed, he's defied the odds. But instead, you did not attack his ideas. You attacked him personally.
That's right.
But you first and foremost resorted saying that I have to understand Egyptian hieroglyphics to understand what he was saying. What he said today had more wisdom than anything Barack Obama said in 8 years.
Wow, we define wisdom very differently.
He said liberals want blacks to vote Democrat because they want them for political power. Home run.
And Republicans want blacks to vote Republican.
He did an unbelievably, intellectually, I would say, grounded critique in his own way against the welfare state. He also said we have the right to bear arms, and I'm going to let
Horace.
It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's seriously about whether people can think freely, and it's also about, are we going to be individuals? What you just said denies that we're individuals when you claim that black people can use offensive language against other black people, but whites. If you said that if a white person said it, they should be fired.
Okay, that's
offensive.
If the liberals then have double standards, you guys have no standards at all.
Well, that's been the case.
So it's not about Republicans and Democrats yet. You keep saying liberals versus conservatives.
The one thing I want to get at a little bit, and I like to keep you guys for the whole hour because this is so great. But honestly, each one of you has a really interesting point of view. In the Obama years, we had Snoop Dogg.
Absolutely.
He's hanging out in the White House. You know, he likes to smoke his pot and all that. And he was laughing about it. And, you know, you can say, well, was that really presidential? You know, but Clinton had Monica in the side office over the Oval Office. Was that presidential? I mean, had Jay-Z and Beyonce mugging in the Situation Room. We couldn't use that photo because it's licensed, too expensive. I didn't want to use it. But he's there mugging in this. I mean, you know what I mean? So everyone has their celebrities in and out. Trump has pretty much only one or two celebrities, three celebrities. Lee Greenwood around, so you have like a few, a few celebrities.
And Jim Brown, you can't forget Jim
But he can't even have like one celebrity, one African American celebrity. That guy has to be destroyed. I just think, what's the big deal if Kanye West is there? Like, why are people why are liberals so worried about it?
Because he's a threat. Because he's an A-list artist that's also married to an entire family with huge cultural clout. He's a threat to the Democrat monolith. That's why you see Don Lemon trying to discredit him off the bat.
He made a hit. Kanye made a hit at the Kardashians. Like, no, a nicely gestured kind of. Well, we didn't have a lot of male influence in that family. I was like, okay, I'm not going near that. Final thought, real quick.
If we look at the Republican Party, and it's funny that we said Democrats are a monolith because we can clearly see who's the real monolith here. We're looking at the room right now.
All right. Well, it's good to have you all on.
I don't know what that means.
We don't have to. Hieroglyphics.
All right. We guys, I want to have you on for the whole hour, but they're telling me I can't do that. All right. For more insight into the mind of President Trump and conservative populism that drove him to office, make sure to pick up a copy of my new book. It's in paperback, Busting the Barricades, What I Saw at the Populist Revolution. It's at bookstores everywhere, and you'll love it. And next, the media may be losing their mind over this Kanye West meeting with President Trump. But what about the political ramifications? Insight from some folks in Kanye's hometown of Chicago. Coming up. As I noted in the angle, the media are freaking out over Kanye West's meeting with President Trump. But we're more curious about whether this translates into actual votes. Here to debate, Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell and Juan Williams, whose new book, What the Hell Do You Have to Lose?, is out now. Fantastic. Gianno, like Kanye, you're a Chicago native. So what are people saying in Chicago about all this tonight? I mean, we did that, our town hall last month and had a lot of fun and really emotional time in Chicago. And I understand you were able to catch up to some of our friends in some of the more difficult areas of South and West Side.
Absolutely. There were, surprisingly for, I'm sure, the mainstream, a lot of people that agree with what Kanye West had to say. And he had some things in which he highlighted. You talk about stop and frisk is one issue that a lot of Chicagoans care about. They're against stop and frisk. I'm sure that's no surprise. But certainly this prison reform issue is another big issue. But what I have to say, Laura, is when I read publications today, when I saw what was on social media, even on my own Instagram page at Gianno Caldwell, for those who want to follow, I was distressed. I was upset, especially by my friends over at CNN who used the word token Negro. I mean, friends of mine who are black conservatives who get this kind of rhetoric thrown at us on a day-to-day basis. You're going to attack someone who my belief is whose heart is pure and who want to see the people of Chicago helped and the people across this nation helped. You use that kind of language. I was just disturbed by it all. I got to be honest with you, Laura. It was very disturbing.
Juan, the reaction from the media and some members of the entertainment industry, but mostly the media folks in D.C. and New York, was pretty unhinged. I mean, we had people using the Negro word and then other things. And then Nia Malika Henderson is a political reporter at CNN, and she came on right after pretty much this all wrapped up, and she said the following. Well, she said, okay, I'll read it to you. She said, it also speaks to the lack of seriousness that the president looks at African-American issues. It was supposed to be about criminal justice reform, opportunity zones. With that, you would think you'd want policy experts, she said, people who know about these issues. Instead, we've got Jim Brown, who is basically silent and on display, and Kanye West, who isn't an expert in any of these things. My question to Juan is, who's an expert among any of the celebrities that were in and out of the White House during the Obama years?
Well, I think there's a whole different context to Obama's relationship to not only the black community, but to racial issues in the country as the first black president. And there are pluses and minuses to be debated, but it's nowhere near the low of Donald Trump in terms of not only the rhetoric he uses, but the substance of his policies with regard to black America. Gianno mentioned criminal justice reform. Remember, they were Republicans working on reducing sentences for nonviolent drug offenders and the like before Trump and Jeff Sessions got in office. All that now gone. Voter suppression issues loom large as we approach the midterms.
Now, how about
education.
Yeah,
again, unemployment.
African-American unemployment.
This is one of my favorites because what happens is anytime people say, hey, you know what? Race relations are worse, and in the latest Fox poll, half of Americans think Trump is a racist. Trump says, hey, what about the low unemployment rate? Lowest in history.
Juan, were race relations great during Obama when we had Baltimore on fire, when we had Ferguson on fire?
Laura, it's not up to me or you.
We had major American cities in flames during Obama. And you're all like, Obama was a great unifier. Then why did you have Ferguson in flames? Why did you have entire buildings on fire, police cars set on fire, violence in Baltimore? And you had people in most polls saying the the country was divided. The country has been racially hot for some time.
It's been divided for a while.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I don't think there's any doubt about
which...
the fact that the country, according to the polls, thinks that we have worse race relations now, that they disapprove of the president's handling of race far higher than Obama's.
Okay, I don't
and
know what
as I
Obama
said
did
to
for
you,
Chicago.
half the country, including 11% of Republicans, think the guy's a racist.
Chicago? Juan, you can't answer the question. This is what drives me crazy. What did Obama do for Chicago, Juan? What? Name one thing.
Oh my gosh! Remember, Michelle went there after the shooting of that young woman who had come to the White House. You don't remember that? Oh, I can
let me tell you. If I may, let me tell you what President Obama did for Chicago. Nothing. And the reason why he did nothing, because his pal Rahm Emanuel, let's be very honest, his pal Rahm Emanuel was running the city, so therefore he didn't talk about the issues of Chicago. There were people dying in the street as they are today, and you didn't get a word out of President Obama on that. When he held the bully pulpit and from the executive branch, could have done something real for Chicago. You mentioned the fact that you believe that criminal justice reform has gone away, but Jared Kushner is working on it actively. Even Van Jones is a part of that conversation.
All right,
John, let me just quickly say that, in fact, the criticism of President Obama came from the left for saying to people, including at church services, we have to be more responsible. Black-on-black crime is our problem. It's not about all of that. And people said, why are you lecturing black folks when there's systemic racism? So I don't buy this that he did nothing. I think today with Kanye West, what you saw was not a message to the black community. It was a message to Trump supporters ahead of the midterms. Don't worry about the problem of race. I have a black friend, and that's why Kanye was a prop.
That's
so again, what I have to say is, when people say he's a prop or he's he's stupid or I just will go back to the revolving door of celebrities who were making their pitches on a variety of issues to Obama and the Clintons, and this was considered all well and good, whether it was George Clooney or whether it was Jay and Bay or whether, whoever it was. They did a celebrity send-off for the president. That
Laura,
was something like the Grammy Awards. I've never seen anything like it.
Laura, you distort so badly.
If I may interject really quickly.
I distort? I covered it every single day.
Here's what I'm saying. Wait, I want Giano to have his chance, but allow me to respond, Giano. I would just say to you, Laura, if you look back at, from Eisenhower, who had E. Frederick Murrow, to Ronald Reagan, to President Kennedy, President Bush, they had black advisors, a Latino advisor. There's no such, is Omarosa, another celebrity, his expert in terms of dealing with race and civil rights issues?
Now I'm glad we know what you care about. So for you, it's just now it's the numbers inside the White House.
No, it's about people who know what they're doing, people who have some relationship to established relationship to the black community.
All right, we got to get Giano in.
Kanye became very dangerous to the folks on the left and otherwise when they saw what he did for President Trump's poll numbers in the black community. We know that to be a fact. People have been calling Kanye West stupid and dumb when he has done great work. The guy's a billionaire now, and this was somebody who the odds were against him from birth. So for people to call him stupid and dumb when I'm not aware of anybody's medical credentials who've examined him, to say that is just wrong. And I don't think we should have, especially black people on CNN, calling him a token Negro.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Both of you could keep it going. I wish we had more time tonight. Two Democratic Senate candidates might be facing their own basket of deplorables moment. Sean Spicer, Ari Fleischer, both here to explain next.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
Those two moments caught on camera in 2012 and 2016 became defining moments for two losing candidates. Now, two Democrat Senate candidates are facing similar issues. For Tennessee Senate candidate Phil Bredston, it happened when his staff dismissed the candidate's support for Brett Kavanaugh as a way to fool ignorant Tennessee voters. Arizona Senate candidate Kyrsten Sinema similarly mocked her own constituents in a newly unearthed 2011 video. Watch.
Arizona is the state of the 5 C's. So cattle, copper, citrus, cotton, and climate. And those were the 5 things that our state historically made its money off of. But I would add a sixth C. It's called crazy. Because what's happening in my state is pure craziness.
That was a nice stuff that she said. Joining us with her thoughts are two former White House press secretaries, the Trump administration's Sean Spicer and the Bush administration's Ari Fleischer. Sean, let's start with you. One of President Trump's major advantages over Secretary Clinton was how out of touch she seemed to ordinary Americans. So do these senators face similar risks here, given the revelations?
Yeah, absolutely. Pro tip, don't call the people that you want to elect you crazy. And so I think Kristen Sinema, that was in a close race out there in Arizona with Congresswoman Martha McSally, is going to find herself on the back end of the wave that's going to bring Martha McSally to the U.S. Senate. Similarly, I think Marsha Blackburn initially was in a tight race going back a few weeks ago with former Governor Phil Bredesen, and I think that race has opened up for Marsha Blackburn. These two folks needed to pretend that they actually were conservatives and that they championed sort of the issues that could work with someone like President Donald Trump. And these videos that have both been unearthed prove that they will say whatever they have to say to get into power, and yet they are truly left-wing Democrats that will elect Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi if they ever were to get to Washington.
Ari, you know, authenticity in candidates and on campaigns, I guess in politics sometimes it's hard to find. People kind of sense it, though. I think they know it when they see it. And Trump, you know, his rough edges and all at times. Yeah. People think this is a guy who's going to fight for us. He loves his country, and we're with him. We're going to stay with him because he loves us. I mean, people really think he loves them. What about, especially with Arizona, Ari?
You are 100% right. You know, there's a real revulsion in this country toward the picture-perfect politicians who know how to say everything the right way, but they don't mean it. So along comes rough, tough, gruff Trump, who just lets it fly, lets it rip. And it makes some people uncomfortable. But on the other hand, I think people actually embrace the fact that he's real. And that's helped him. Now, in the case of these Senate candidates in these very red states, there's a terrible tension that they are suffering from. They want to be more liberal, but they know they can't be more liberal. And so it doesn't surprise me when you hear things, you see things like what happened with Arizona, like what's happening in Tennessee, come out of the woodwork, because it's the real reflection of who they are and what they believe, but they have to fake it because they cannot win in a red state otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, one of the parts of this was when Sinema was saying, you know, there's nothing wrong in the water, something wrong with the people in the public office in Arizona. And then say they're called Republicans, Tea Party Republicans. It's all the same thing. It's called crazy. Again, more craziness. And it goes back to pejoratives. And we're talking about Kanye West. All the criticism of him is he's crazy, he's nuts, he's stupid, you can't understand him. There's very little substantive dialogue. And Sean, I want to go with you and then back to Ari. Nicole Wallace was on MSNBC today, and we're talking about this push to violence and intimidation, getting in people's faces. She said something very interesting about what she encouraged Jeb Bush to do during the debates in the GOP primaries in 2016. Let's watch.
I told Jeb Bush after that debate that I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
When he came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers, he said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
Sean, she wasn't really laughing. She actually told him to do that, apparently.
I think the problem I have right now is that we've gone from joking about things to actually inciting violence. I know Nicole not well, but I hope that was in a lighthearted moment. But what I'm continuing to see from the left is whether it's people getting shot up at a baseball practice or going to Andy Harris's office or assaulting Ted Cruz and his wife at dinner. It's the left that continues to push the envelope in a very dangerous place in this country. I respect the First Amendment. I respect our ability to protest
this is ridiculous.
And assemble. But this is now crossing a line, and the left seems to be condoning it and encouraging it in a way that I think is very dangerous for society.
Yeah, but I'm not going to let you off the hook, Ari, on Nicole Wallace about punching Trump in the face. I mean, this is wild. What is this?
It's not wild. It's lost. And I think that's what Donald Trump has made people do. They become lost. People who used to have moorings, people who used to say there's a limit to where we will go. And because they don't like what Donald Trump's doing, they go lower. And that's really going to hurt the Democrats. When good people like Nicole have lost their way and say things like that, advocating violence, no. And Sean's 100% right. You know, that was actually an assassination attempt on scores of Republicans with 200 rounds of ammunition. Don't forget the shooting at the Family Research Council or the firebombing of the GOP headquarters in North Carolina in 2016. These are actual acts of violence. And one of the reasons, Laura, I'm so upset about this is because the mainstream media doesn't blow the whistle, put it on the front page, and call them out. They look the other way. And that means they acquiesce to it.
Yeah, they and tacitly encourage it, I think. Guys, thank you so much.
That's right.
And did you know that Susan Rice's son is the head of the Stanford Republicans? Isn't that interesting? And did you know that he was reportedly assaulted recently at a pro-Kavanaugh rally? One of his close friends joins us next to detail the latest example of the leftist violence that Ari and Sean were just talking about. Stay there. You saw it when protesters literally tried to pry open the 13-ton bronze doors of the Supreme Court. And you saw it when Antifa took over Portland, physically attacking cars. Leftist violence is also spilling onto college campuses, though, impacting our students. The Republican son of Obama National Security Advisor Susan Rice says that he was assaulted at Stanford University at an event, believe it or not, supporting Brett Kavanaugh. His best friend who witnessed it, Ben Esposito, is joining us tonight. Ben, it's good to see you. Is the treasurer of the Stanford College Republicans. Ben, take us through what happened here.
Yes, thank you, Laura. Great to be here. So we have these events regularly, Change My Mind events, where we promote conservative viewpoints on a campus that frankly doesn't have a lot of them. So we were standing up today, or the other day, for due process. And during this event, one of the protesters who showed up kind of got upset at John and showed up and pushed him and, you know, hit him and pushed him back. And we eventually had to call the police and make sure everything got settled down.
And it was a woman, I understand. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, female student.
And are you identifying her? Are you afraid to identify her? Who is she?
Well, we've identified her on our Facebook. I don't think we need to throw her name out. I mean, her first name is Melinda. I don't think we need to throw her name out to the masses. But yeah, so she assaulted John, and right now we're pressing charges, or John is.
Okay, so and she was upset because you were exercising your First Amendment rights. I mean, what? She's a known leftist on campus.
Not really. In fact, it's kind of crazy that, you know, it's actually someone we had no idea, because you do know some prominent, you know, very liberal students on campus, but this is just another person. Yeah. So she was upset at John, was filming her for ripping these flyers, because we're just trying to get this documented, and, you know, she wasn't happy at that, and she attacked him for it.
Is it harder for Susan Rice's son, given her prominence in the Obama administration, for him to be a Republican? Does he face more pushback just because of his family lineage?
I think perhaps, but really I think the reason he faces the most pushback, I mean, anywhere, is because he's a conservative on a college campus promoting individual liberty. I mean, every day, you know, it's very difficult for students of any student to promote conservatism. Students are expected to conform.
Hey, Ben. Keep doing exactly what you're doing, because guess what? There are a lot more students who agree with you, and you have to have fun doing it, and you have to keep doing it, okay? I went through the same thing at Dartmouth. Keep doing what you're doing. We salute you, and give our best to your pal, okay? And stay safe out there.
All right, we will keep fighting. Thank you.
All right, you take care. And the violence and intimidation now apparently follows you even at a bar. You're out there having some fun. You can't do politics there either. Johnny Mackay, I think, made headlines yesterday after someone torched his truck because he dared to have a pro-Trump sticker on it. Johnny, first of all, it's good to have you with us. I'm sorry this happened to you. Is this like a normal occurrence for Trump supporters in Washington State? It's obviously a very liberal state. What gives here?
No, it's Washington's actually more pro-Trump than just across the river in Portland. So it's very unusual.
So what did this sticker look like?
I had two stickers. I had they're both Trump 2020. One says "Make liberals cry again," and the other one said "Keep America great."
Okay, the "Make liberals cry again" is really funny, and you have to get me one. Although I think I'll put it on my older car. So you came out of the bar. What time? You just left the car there because you stayed there late, and then you came back the next morning. What happened?
Well, my wife was at work and I was home bored, so I went to the bar to have a couple drinks and play some pool. I was only there for about an hour and a half. I had 4 beers, played a couple games of pool and left at 10:30. Took an Uber home because I was feeling it.
For you.
And when I went back in the morning, my truck was gone.
And you found it where?
It was in the parking lot. It was completely torched. Whoever did it, the only thing I can think of is they didn't like the Trump bumper stickers because they wrote, the lady who initially called 911, she told the bar owner that it said on the front door, it said F you Trump on it, and but the scorch burnt the other part off, and all that was left was the Trump part.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it wasn't. We love Trump. Let me burn your truck.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty logical guess. I'm really sorry this happened to you. I mean, this is just you can't put a bumper sticker on your car. You have to get one. You have to confuse them next time and have like "Make America Great" and then like visualize world peace, or question authority. You should have some like liberal Greenpeace stuff and Trump stuff. Then they'll be stuck and they won't know what to do. Okay, just do that. That will really freak them out. All right, and I hope you get a new truck. Hope insurance covers that. All right, thank you so much. And I'll debate a professor who, get this, says Trump immigration policy is the cause of crime. Where? In Mexico. Stick around. A policy professor at George Mason University is blaming the Trump administration for crimes in Mexico. Yes, you heard that right. Guadalupe Correa Cabrera joins us now to explain. Thank you for being here. First of all, my question is, do you think it's possible that some of the people who've been deported back to Mexico were already committing crimes before they were deported back to Mexico? Because you're saying deportation policies is making Mexico's life worse. Explain.
Mexico and the United States, because people are very vulnerable, and we have cartels at the border, operating at the border, and we have corruption in Mexico. Therefore, when you deport people to the border, they find themselves like they want to come back to the United States. They don't have their families or their networks, and some of them are forced to participate in the criminal activities, or some of them want to go to the United States, so they hire some smugglers that are in connection with the cartels.
Right, I understand that, but why is that our problem?
Well, it's not your problem, but you might have a problem as well, because you will have more criminal groups operating on the Mexican side of the border. And as you know, people are still arriving to the United States, no matter what.
Do you think we should have any borders, really? I mean, why have border at this point? I mean, why not just make it all one, Mexico and the United States? Then you won't have, the cartels would kind of go out of business because people will just be all one country.
I believe that every country has to have some kind of limit, and I think borders are important to establish certain limits to certain forces, right?
Right, but if you can have a border, then presumably when people don't have permission to be here, then they can be sent home. Every country on the face of the planet sends people home when they don't have permission, and especially if they've committed a crime, and then you're really subjected to be deportation. I think Americans don't feel like it's their responsibility to make sure that Mexico, I mean, we want Mexico to be well, but then don't allow people to cross the border. Real quick.
I think that you're right, but at the same time, the United States can be threatened by more violence at the border.
All right, will you come back so we can do a really long segment?
Yeah.
Would love to have you back. Thank you.